Hey guys, this is my partner Izzy. She does a lot of art, some you've seen on the channel, and she even makes a comic online, which you should go read. Now, link in the description. The reason why I'm telling you this is because for our 2-year anniversary, I'm going to turn her comic into a physical comic. Right now it's a comic on webtoons that you kind of scroll, which means it's made to be read vertically, but I want to turn it into a paper comic that you can read like a comic book, which turns out is harder than you'd think. I'm just going to tackle this in chronological order, dealing with the problems as I dealt with them when I actually made the comic. So let's just jump right in. My strategy was just take some screenshots of the actual panels and then just put them together on pages in Photoshop. There will be absolutely no problems with this down the road. I swear. Just don't forget to rasterize the layers. After doing the first page, I kind of realized that I needed an example, something to base this off of, so I got out my trusty Bone comic. I haven't read this comic in a long time, but it was really nice to look back, and I might actually reread these soon. But looking at the structure, I can sort of gauge what I'm supposed to do. I need to make sure also I'm not doing this in the Japanese way, because I've also read a lot of manga, as you can see, all the JoJo part 4s, because that's my favorite part. And this is where things take a little bit of a turn, because the comic was not made to have a bunch of this stuff fit on a single page. And it sort of causes some problems. So there's this cool thing that Izzy likes to do with her art that I really love, but makes stuff a little more difficult, where like dialogue boxes and like maybe like the horn of Rusty's unicorn head or the devil horns of the characters will poke out of the box that the artist trapped in. And it looks really cool, but sometimes it's kind of hard to fit all of that onto a single page. What I kind of landed on was having some sort of image in the background, one that I can make really big and then stack other stuff on top of it. Layering was really important in this, and I did not think about it when I originally started this, so that's cool. Looking back on it now, I would have added some sort of background that just was always there. You kind of just have a white void in between a lot of panels, and I think that kind of looks meh, but it also kind of brings back the webtoon style and how it was actually made on the site. So, maybe it's cool. I don't know. All right, let's save this up and you know what time it is. That's right, it's time for some crop deck. For this one, I'm going with the gorilla, and the gorilla allows you to get essentially as many scarecrows as you want, but for every scarecrow you have, the more taxes you have to pay, which means that you really need to be picking scarecrows that synergize and get the most value out of it, or you'll just be paying so many taxes and have no way to do it. I'm going to start off with the Carrot King loadout because it allows me to get a decent bit of watering from my original Scarecrow, and that is one of like the 3 things you need to do in this game. The next big decision I had to make was how big do I make some of these images? A lot of times they're made to be the whole screen. Like you're scrolling on your phone and oh, this is the whole picture. Here's a whole picture of them walking down the street. Here's Rusty looking pretty fucking sick. But should they be a whole page of an actual comic? If this were a serialized comic and wanting to be printed a bunch, then probably not, because it would save a lot of money to put extra images on the same page. But since I'm only printing a couple of these, I think it's fine to just put whole images of just like a picture. Though I'm going to try and do that as little as possible. After getting about 10 pages in, I realized something. How am I going to attach these to one another? Like, when you print off a comic, I'm pretty sure there's some space you leave on the side so that you can glue or staple or do whatever to attach the pages together. And I was not accounting for that. Okay, 3 millimeters. How much is that? Surprisingly, that didn't help. I ended up just putting a piece of paper on the screen after resizing it and just measuring the piece of paper. 3 millimeters is not a lot, so I kind of just guessed for most of it. Let's hope it works out. Anyway, you think I'm gonna pick the donkey? No, I'm gonna pick the gorilla. The more I work on this, the more I appreciate it. It just being something of a passion project done by Izzy. Self-publishing and just doing it for yourself, by yourself, for yourself, just leads you to make what you want. And even if people don't think it's as good as other things, or even just don't like it at all, it has some beauty in it. The great thing about self-publishing is that it just completely destroys what people think of as a comic, what a comic is supposed to be. Going to college has exposed me to more mediums than I'm used to. I used to only really watch TV shows and movies, which are very similar. Comics specifically have a lot of cool details that I never really thought about before. Where books use solely words to describe things, comics use images and words, and that changes things because you can't really describe images perfectly. For example, take this panel in Bone. What does the hooded one sound like based off of what you're seeing? To me, it looks like a contradictory statement, a quiet whisper you could hear from across the street. But it could also be some form of magical speech in the mind, like some form of telepathy. So, what does the hooded one sound like? The answer doesn't exist. It is just a representation of what the artist writer imagined, and the answer is whatever the viewer thinks. I think some of the inspiration that I took kind of directly from the Bone comics when laying down these panels is the dream sequences Thorn has. As you can see, there's just kind of the gap between panels, but the dream sequence goes over top of it. And that's just not how things are supposed to work. Things are supposed to stay in the images, things are supposed to stay uniform, and this clearly breaks it. Its feeling of wrongness helps you kind of understand that it's a dream, understand that something's not right, and maybe it's that none of this is really happening. Now let's get back to what you really want. Crop down. So let's finish up these pages. It turns out that sometimes it's just hard to fit everything on a page. As you can see here, I really wanted to add this fifth image because it would kind of just balance everything out. It would take away a lot of the blank space to put in another image, but there's just not a way to fit all of these images. And this is a problem that's plagued me the entire time because I'm trying to force these images to work on a piece of paper, not what they're designed to do. So there's just problems. And this page is the most egregious example. It just leaves a lot of blank space that wouldn't be there if you planned to do this from the get-go. Again, this is not Izzy's fault at all. I'm trying to make stuff work. It's my fault. Sometimes I have creative solutions, like I took the ZZZ from this picture and put it coming out of the house so it works a little bit better. And sometimes I just have a lot of blank space like this. But yeah, eventually it worked out and I got all the pages finished. But now it's time to print this shit. So my plan going into this was to use Office Max to print the stuff for me. I've used them before to print off some proxies for a CDH deck I was playing. A CDH deck that definitely won't come into play in the next video I make. And I thought it would work similarly here. Okay. Alright, let's just upload our images and okay. Fuck. What? Not available in my country? Oh my god. So it turns out, when I tried to fucking print this, the entire thing was under maintenance. Oh my god. Just my luck, dude. Seriously, what? Out of any other day, it's today. Great, great, great. Well, at least this gives me time to gather some fan art. So this is where I'd like to thank Felix for lending me some of his art, and for Emma for just finding the rest of the fan art. If you want to find links to any of the art shown in this video, just look in the description below. So all that is left to do is to make the cover, add a little message for Izzy, and print it. Provided the site's not on maintenance, Office Max. So that last part was supposed to be a joke, supposed to be like, ha ha, I hope the website works, but it still doesn't. It is the 26th. I missed our anniversary, and now but I don't know. The website does not work. I don't know if it has to do with the maintenance or what, but it doesn't work, and I have to switch to something else. And I know it seems like it's been a few days, but I showed Izzy the comic, and I haven't printed it out yet, and there's no excuse for this taking so long. I don't know what happened. I'm so disappointed in myself. I don't want to even tell you about this last crop deck game I played where I leveraged my high amount of watering to plant as many plants as I could. But anyway, here it is. Yeah, it turned out a little weird, and there's a little bit of white above it and below it, but I actually really like how this turned out. It translated extremely well to comic book form, and even those pages where it was a little iffy on, having a lot of big images, turned out really well. I love this one of Rusty, and I'm so glad I made it look like this. Sometimes because of how the booklet is folded, you can see like other pages from across the thing, and that's not really my fault. Also, like, there's extra space on the edges, so that entire thing about measuring was completely worthless. And there's one part where I forgot to cut the white out of this page properly, and it just bothers me. Ah! But I actually really like how this looks. This feels like a real comic book, and I put the time into it, and it turned out pretty great. Or at least, that's what I think. We'll have to see what Izzy thinks. Got you a staple.
You don't need to record the...
You don't know what it is.
But I do. Wow, so cute.